Hey guys, Will here. So there's a bit of a sense of deja vu in the studio today. Believe it or not, we've received yet another ClubSport bundle from Fanatec to check out. So this is the ClubSport Racing Wheel F1 bundle. It comes with a DD Plus wheelbase that we took a detailed look at just a couple of months ago here on the channel. I would definitely recommend checking out that video if you haven't seen it already. It goes into all the detail that you need, at least at this point in time, to determine whether or not this might be the correct wheelbase for you versus a lot of other options that are available on the market. Now, this particular bundle comes with a special edition F1 licensed wheel that you can only get in this particular bundle. It is only PlayStation and PC compatible out of the box. So given that, well, let's face it, neither of these products are actually anything that we haven't covered before here on the channel for you guys. We're gonna be doing things a little bit differently. I'm gonna focus primarily today on the value proposition of this bundle specifically compared to some of the other options that are available within the Fanatec ecosystem. Now, I will, of course, as soon as we possibly can, be unpacking this even further and comparing this particular bundle and, of course, the DD Plus as a standalone product against some of the other competitor products on the market. I'm just not comfortable doing that right now, simply because there are a lot of questions still on the table with regards to customer service, for one thing, which we'll be talking about a bit in today's video, but also just without full force integration available yet in any games, it's very difficult to determine whether or not this wheelbase is actually better for the driver than a lot of the other options that are available on the market. We're in a really good place at the moment where most direct drive wheelbases are really very good. So we're definitely going to unpack that in detail for you guys. Definitely get subscribed to the channel if you aren't already, so you don't miss out on that. But today we're going to be primarily focused on the value proposition of this particular bundle, whether I think if you've already decided that you want to buy into Fanatec or you want to upgrade existing Fanatec gear, whether or not this is going to be the bundle for you or whether you're better off choosing something else. So let's dive in. So before we get into the products today, I do think that it's very important to address some of the issues that are facing Fanatec customers at the moment with regards to customer service and logistics. Now, this is very much an evolving situation. If you've seen some of our recent reviews since all of this started happening, you would have seen I've covered it in as much detail as I possibly could. What I'm learning as this goes on, and look, honestly, Tom and I have spent thousands of hours since November last year, kind of, just trying to talk to people, trying to figure out what's going on and trying to give you guys as many answers as we possibly can. But look, what I'm learning is that this is very much an evolving situation. Every day things seem to be changing, the goalposts seem to be moving. And look, at this point in time, I think the best advice I can give you is be aware that there are issues with regards to customer service. The wait times are unacceptably long at the moment. Fanatec themselves have acknowledged that, but at this point in time, it seems they haven't been able to get back on top of it. There are also still issues with regards to logistics and actually shipping out orders as well. Now, in the last review that we did, the DD Extreme bundle review, they had told us at that point in time that if you were placing an order for that particular bundle, orders should be shipping out, relatively quickly. I think it was 2 to 5 working days or something like that. But they said that basically the shipping timeframes that were listed on their website would be accurate for that particular product. Now, from what I've seen, that does seem to be the case. But people that are still waiting for their DD Plus wheelbase orders from late last year are still waiting as well. So yeah, look, the best advice I can give you at this point in time is jump onto the Fanatec subreddit. There's a whole section on there for shipping and logistics and customer support. People are basically just sharing their real world experiences there. And I think that's probably the best way to get an accurate picture of exactly what's going on at the moment, just simply because things are changing so rapidly. Now, the other thing I want to address as well is, I don't even know when you guys are going to be seeing this video because they haven't given us an embargo date for this particular product yet. But at the time that we're recording this, 3 weeks ago, we put out a post on both our Facebook page and our community section on YouTube, asking you guys to give us your questions that you want to ask Fanatec about all this situation. And we basically went through, summarized all those questions and presented them to Fanatec. And we actually had a meeting scheduled with them to go through it, some of their senior staff to actually go through all of these questions and try to get some solid answers for you guys, directly from them. Now, I went back to them and actually requested that Thomas, the CEO of the company, be involved in that, simply because I thought that it would be better for you guys if you got answers, straight from the top. I just thought that would be a better way of handling things. And unfortunately, since I made that request, I haven't heard back from them with a time that we can actually sit down and do that meeting. So I am still putting pressure on them, but unfortunately at the time that we're recording this video, I just simply don't know whether it's actually going to happen or not. But we did send them through our summarized version of the questions that you guys asked, and I will continue to push to try and get some answers for you guys. So I think it's best if I leave it at that, simply so that I'm not giving you any incorrect or out of date information. do your own research there, jump on that Fanatec subreddit and get the latest information from customers that are actually ordering stuff and sharing their experiences there. And please, if you are a Fanatec customer, do share your experiences there, good and bad. That's the best way at the moment, I think, for people to get an accurate representation of exactly what's going on in the real world versus what, you know, content creators are saying and trying to explain what Fanatec themselves are saying and whatnot. It's best to come from people that are actually in the situation themselves. Now, it's also important that you guys are aware that we do have some affiliate links down in the description below, both for Fanatec as well as other brands. So if there is anything that you're looking at picking up, that is an awesome way of helping support our work here at Boosted Media without it costing you a cent. And that's just something that's available if you find what we do here of benefit and you want to help support us. So we really do appreciate your support there. But as is always the case here, everything we're going to be talking about today is purely just my own observations and my own opinions of the product. So let's dive in now and start with talking about pricing. So for the bundle with the special edition wheel and the wheelbase, remembering again, this is the only way that you can get this specific wheel, although there are other wheels that we'll look at in just a minute that are essentially the same, just different cosmetically. US price, you're looking at $1299.95. In Europe, it's €1299.95 Euro. In Australia, you're looking at 2,139 Australian dollars. That does include the 10% GST as well. So obviously just check your local shipping prices, taxes, import duties. So it's the exact same price as the GT DD Extreme bundle that we looked at just a couple of weeks ago. So to put that into perspective for you, to buy the wheelbase on its own, you're looking at $999.95 US dollars or $999.95 Euro or $1,649.95 in Australia, including GST. So effectively, when you break it down, you're paying $300 US dollars or Euro for the steering wheel or $489.95 in Australian dollars. So if you were to purchase the wheelbase on its own and then buy a wheel separately, the closest equivalent would be the Formula V 2.5, which also doesn't have the Xbox compatible chip in it. There is a V2.5X version, which does have that chip. We'll get onto that in just a second. But to buy this wheel on its own, you're looking at $339.95 US dollars or Euro or 515 Australian dollars, including GST. So that's a saving of $39.95 US dollars or Euro or $25.05 if you're in Australia. But the important distinction here is that this wheel, if you buy it on its own, does still come with a QR1, whereas, and I'm sure this is what you've all been waiting to see, this guy does come with a QR2 standard, not the QR2 light plastic composite version that we saw on the DD Extreme, which I know a lot of people were upset about. We do have a dedicated video on the QR2 and comparisons between all three models, the light, the standard, as you see here, and the Pro. So definitely check that out as well for all the breakdown on the QR2. But what that means is, because at the moment they still haven't transitioned across to including the QR2 with separate wheel purchases, if you buy that V2.5 wheel, you're looking at adding an extra $99.95 Euro or US dollars or $169.90 Australian to purchase that QR2 standard to bring it up to the same spec as what we have here. So in the end, what that equates to is, if you buy the bundle versus buying the wheel and a QR2, you're saving yourself $139.90 US, $139.90 Euro, or in Australia, $194.95. So it certainly is a considerable saving there, and certainly worthwhile buying the bundle, I would say, over buying the product separately if you know that you want one of these wheels. Now, just quickly as well, as we touched on, you do have the option of the V2.5X wheel too. This does give you that Xbox compatibility. This wheel comes in at $349.95 US or Euro and 535 Australian dollars. And again, that does come as standard with the QR1. Now, we've got a couple of mods on this one here, just to let you know. This has got pineapple grips, leather grips, as well as the advanced paddle module, which is a little bit more expensive. So as it stands right now, both this special edition wheel and the standard V2.5 do come with their ClubSport magnetic paddle module. So you do get those nice high quality magnetic shifters, but you don't get the additional analog paddles and the paddles up the top that you can assign to other functions versus the advanced paddle module. But you can, of course, purchase that as an upgrade for this wheel if you wanted to upgrade it further on down the line. So definitely a pretty significant saving there. And I think this is probably a good point in the video to pause and acknowledge that I know quite a few people have been upset by the fact that the DD Plus was announced as a standalone product and made available for pre-order, and then the DD Extreme was launched, you know, weeks and weeks and weeks afterwards. Originally, their plan was to have that happen closer together. Obviously, with the delays with Sony approval for the DD Plus, that threw a spanner in the works to some extent. But I can only assume that they did intend to announce them separately, one after the other. Otherwise, they would have done it at the same time. And so, yeah, I know a lot of people were upset that purchased a DD Plus had it marked as shipping, so they couldn't cancel the order and therefore missed out on buying the DD Extreme bundle. Now, I guess the big difference between this bundle and the DD Extreme is that this is a wheel that you can buy on its own, essentially, you know, minus the PlayStation button caps and the fancy color scheme. But you can buy an equivalent wheel to this, whereas with the DD Extreme, you know, if you can't buy that wheel on its own. So if that's what you want, you're kind of stuck there. But I think it is important to acknowledge those customers that, you know, perhaps were early birds and ordered the DD Plus, you know, without knowing that these other products are in the pipeline and are now going to be, you know, having to fork out a significant amount of money extra to buy a wheel separately when they could have just bought the bundle. So yeah, look, I mean, I know that this kind of thing happens in tech all the time. You know, we see it in the PC industry all the time. I mean, Nvidia comes to mind, for example, with some of their graphics card releases, you know, kind of releasing a top spec, you know, waiting for everybody to buy that and then releasing something that might have been more appropriate for the customer for a little bit cheaper later on. I don't know why they do it this way. I wish I did know, and I wish that they did announce everything at the same time so that you guys had the ability to, you know, even if they don't make them available at the same time, if they just announce them at the same time, then you guys are informed and you can make the best possible decision. And it makes it very difficult for us as reviewers as well, because oftentimes we know about these products ahead of time. In the case of this particular bundle, we actually didn't know about it ahead of time, as I mentioned in the intro. But, you know, with the DD Extreme, we knew about that for a couple of months, but we couldn't tell you guys. And that puts us in an awkward position as well, because obviously we want you guys to be as informed as we possibly can, but it's actually illegal for us to disclose that information because it's under a non-disclosure agreement. So that's the reason for that, if you guys were wondering about it. But yeah, I thought it was important to just acknowledge that because I know that this approach to releasing products does upset a lot of people, and I can certainly appreciate that. If I'd bought a DD Plus and then wanted either that Extreme wheel or this wheel, I would be pretty angry about it, and I think it's fair to acknowledge that. Okay, so let's set the wheelbase aside just for now, and let's talk about what you actually get with this new special edition F1 licensed wheel. So as you can tell, pretty much exactly the same wheel as what we have with the Formula V 2.5 and the Formula V 2.5X as well, if you want that Xbox compatibility. Now with this particular example, we've got pineapple grips, leather grips, as well as the Fanatec advanced paddle module with the extra 2 paddles and analog paddles down the bottom. There is a full review video available for both the grips and that advanced paddle module if those are upgrades that you're interested in looking at. So look, I mean, side by side, essentially, you can see that they're pretty much exactly the same wheel. Now, the Formula V2 wheel originally was released in, I want to say around sort of April 2019, I think was when we first got our hands on it. One of the first wheels that I actually bought within the Fanatec ecosystem. Since then, every year except I think it was 2022, there's been a limited edition F1 licensed version of the wheel, which they release in a limited quantity, and they always sell out pretty much immediately every year, even though they're effectively exactly the same wheel. They did release a V2.5 version of both the standard and the X with the Xbox compatibility a couple of years ago now. That's made a couple of changes to the configuration. So that gave you the upgrade of the ClubSport magnetic paddle module. And again, we have a dedicated review video on that specifically. Prior to that, they came with the old micro switch spring-loaded shifters. So that was a significant upgrade in the V2.5 and V2.5X, but I want to make it very clear that if you buy a V2.5 or a V2.5X, you do get those magnetic paddle modules still. The only difference there being, as we discussed before, around the quick releases. So otherwise, between the two wheels, pretty much entirely just cosmetic differences, which we'll run through in just a minute. But one thing I do want to point out that I think is very important is that they have now removed the vibration motors from the wheel. So when you plug it into your wheelbase, you'll see the option there actually detects it as a V2.5. You'll see the option there to test the vibration motors, but when you click that button, nothing happens. Whereas on both the V2.5 and the V2.5X, they do still ship with those vibration motors internally. Now, that is a feature that a lot of people really like. For me personally, it's something that I can take or leave. I remember when I moved across from running my old ClubSport wheelbase 2.5 to the SimuCube 2 Ultimate, and obviously wasn't running Fanatec wheels on my daily driver rig anymore. Somebody asked me, do you miss the vibration motors? And I kind of was like, what? Oh yeah, that's right. So it wasn't a significant thing for me personally. A lot of people might disagree with me on that. One thing just to keep in mind though is that these new wheelbases do have that full force technology, which kind of, I guess, should at least in theory replace that finer detail that you feel through those vibration motors. And the advantage there is that A vibration motor can only spin up and spin down. It doesn't have any actual sort of fidelity to the detail that you're getting through it. So it's kind of an on-off thing, and it's slow to respond as well. Whereas the detail that you should get through full force once that's integrated should be in every way superior. So that's my opinion on it at this point in time, given the small amount of exposure that I've had to some of the test setups that we had for full force back in our previous video. So I don't think that it's going to be an issue for anybody, given that you're getting this wheel with that base and you can't buy the wheel on its own. But it is something to be aware of because it is a mechanical difference between the two wheels. So a couple of quick observations just for those of you who may not be familiar with this design. Now, we do have detailed reviews of a couple of their limited edition wheels that have released over the years, which were essentially the same as this, as well as that original V2 wheel too. So I would definitely recommend, if what I'm going to say here doesn't completely satisfy your hunger for information, then you can check out those videos for a little bit more. But just to give you a basic rundown here, 270 millimeter diameter here, which is a little bit on the narrow side. Now, you will find that you adapt to it over time, but it will feel a little bit more twitchy and a little bit more reactive, I guess you could say, in your hands compared to a larger diameter wheel. It does also make the force feedback feel that little bit sharper, that little bit more detail compared to larger diameter. But I do actually find 270 a little bit on the narrow side for driving with, say, GT4, GT3 style cars. Absolutely fine for Formula style cars. But I mean, you see a lot of, professional esports people driving all kinds of cars with these wheels, and they're able to do it absolutely fine. So I don't think that it's a deal breaker, but if I could have my choice, I would definitely go with a slightly bigger diameter. Now, one thing just worth mentioning there, and I haven't had hands-on with it yet, but Pineapple Grips, whose grips we looked at a while back and whose grips we have on the V2.5, have actually released some kits now, which look really interesting, and I'm hoping to be able to check them out soon. They include a larger carbon fiber faceplate, which actually increases the diameter of the wheel, and I believe they've got a couple of different options available. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to check those out soon, but that's one thing that is potentially an option for you if you love the wheel but wish that it had a large diameter. So stay tuned for that. We'll hopefully be able to check out one of those very soon. But look, overall, for the price of these wheels, I do think that they do a relatively good job. We do have an abundance of choice within the wider sim racing space now when it comes to high quality, low price wheels. We looked at the SimMagic Neo wheel recently, which was absolutely fantastic, and I think much better value overall, just with regards to things like the quality of the switchgear and whatnot. It is also worth mentioning in passing here that if you're a PC sim racer exclusively, Fanatec ClubSport have also just dropped the price across the board of pretty much all of their products. So definitely one that's worth checking out too. But when you consider that, so that you just don't have that many options for PlayStation and console compatibility in general, I think that they do an okay, particularly with the saving that you get with this bundle. I think that the wheel is relatively good value for money, particularly also including that QR2 standard. But a couple of observations there. You do occasionally on these wheels, and this particular example isn't doing it right now, but you do occasionally get a little bit of plastic creaking when you twist the wheels from side to side. That's simply just due to the plastic shell that they have on the rear. Look, in terms of rigidity, the wheels are actually very good. One of the things I'm happy to see on this particular special edition is that they do extend those bits of carbon fiber all the way through into the grip. Some of their limited edition wheels that have that part removed there, so like an open bottom design, do have noticeably more flex in the bottoms of the hand grips than what we have here now. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those here to directly compare for you, but look, it's not something that is overly noticeable when you're driving, but definitely if you stand there twisting the wheel, you will notice that this wheel is more rigid than those open bottom designs. So I'm glad that they've gone with that design rather than the open bottom, which they historically have typically done for their limited edition and special edition wheels. So happy about that. Ergonomically, the wheel is very good. So we hold it in our hands, we can easily reach our thumb encoders there. We can reach the top 3 buttons and our funky switch on the right hand side and analog switch on the left hand side without having to rotate our hand position. That means you can make quick adjustments on the fly without having to take your eyes off the road. And it does make making adjustments mid-corner very easy as well, particularly for the F1 games. I often find I'm changing fuel maps or ERS modes mid-corner, and that's very, very easy to do with these wheels, which is something that I've always appreciated. In terms of the buttons themselves, we do have plastic touch points throughout the entire wheel other than just the analog hat switch and the 7-way funky switch. Those are anodized aluminium, and there are little rubber O-rings on both of those as well, 2 on the funky switch and 1 on the analog hat switch, just to make them a little bit easier to grip with or without gloves, which is a nice touch. Otherwise, with or without the included button caps, we do have plastic touch points for all of these buttons. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of those. And those do have a relatively okay feel to them, relatively responsive and clicky. There is a little bit of squish there, But I mean, look, they're not the best feeling buttons in the world, but they're perfectly adequate, I think, for the price. Nothing really to complain about. One complaint that I do have with these wheels is that the buttons do echo through the shell a little bit. And look, I really am nitpicking here, but you know, I know you guys are going to be comparing this to things like the SimMagic Neo, for example, and that doesn't have that. So it just does give it a slightly cheaper feeling when you're using it overall, but again, when you're driving, probably not something that you're going to notice. A lot of people have complained about the thumb encoders on these wheels over the years being a little bit too loose. Now, we have noticed that over the years, we've had probably 6 or 7 of these wheels in various different forms come through the studio over the years, and I have noticed that the more recent ones do feel a little bit stiffer than some of the early ones did, but they are still quite loose. A lot of other wheels have a very clearly defined, you know, click into each position, whereas these wheels, it's more just kind of like a scroll wheel with a slight little detent in each position. So you don't feel a lot of definition in those scroll wheels when you're changing between positions. What I find when I'm driving is generally, rather than trying to go one click to change a position in one movement, I kind of go one flick. So if I'm wanting to change from engine map 1 to engine map 2, for example, rather than trying to do one click, which I'm probably not going to get, I just kind of flick it once and that makes the change once. So obviously with their software integration, they've done some things so that every single individual click isn't one move. Otherwise you'd find that you'd be constantly missing adjustments and, you know, getting values that you didn't want inside your sim. So in reality, using it, I don't have a major problem with it, but I know quite a few people do wish that these were a little bit stiffer than what they are. There are some mods available too. I haven't actually tried them out myself, but there are mods that insert a little rubber O-ring in there to kind of stiffen it up a little bit more. I don't know what the warranty implications of that would be, of course, but there are options available to you if you do want to stiffen those up. We then also have a couple of little two-way toggle switches on the face of the wheel as well. Now I know from experience that if you give one of these a solid bump, it does break it, because this one is actually broken on this particular wheel. So they are pretty well protected in there, but if the wheel does go crazy on you, it gets snagged on something, there is the risk of breaking those off. But they do have a decent feeling toggling up and down, although maybe perhaps a little bit on the loose side. Then in terms of our 3 multi-position switches on the front here, these can operate as both rotary encoders or multi-position switches. Just be aware that the middle switch here is actually a mode switch for changing between various different settings on the wheel. And you can check out our other review videos linked down in the description for a breakdown on exactly how that works. But that's not something that you can actually map inside the game. So you are limited to your 2 multi-position switches here and then your 2 thumb encoders. That's generally enough to cover most people, I think. I've never really found a situation where I felt like I needed more than the inputs that you have on here, but you may disagree with me on that. So in terms of other functionality here, all pretty simple. You've got your RGB LED RPM strip across the top here, which again we have covered in other review videos in detail. You can adjust the lighting here, of course. You've got your flag LEDs on the side here too, which allow you to see what's going on the track, although they don't operate as a spotter, unlike what you see with some other aftermarket wheels. And then we've got our little 1-inch OLED display here as well, which allows you to navigate through your tuning menu to adjust settings on the fly on the wheel for your force feedback and whatnot, as well as displaying telemetry data. Now that is still a big selling point within the Fanatec ecosystem compared to other ecosystems on the market. Being able to make quick adjustments to your force feedback, as well as switching between different profiles of different cars or different sims or tracks directly from the wheel itself has always been a big selling point in my opinion, and I know it's something that a lot of other people really like about Fanatec. Although a lot of other brands these days, while they still don't have as clean an integration on the wheel itself, do have options for doing that. There is also smartphone apps for a lot of wheelbases now that allow you to make those kinds of adjustments from your phone. And although it's maybe not quite as convenient as having it on the wheel itself, it is still a way that you can make those adjustments without having to alt-tab out of the game and potentially miss the start of a race. So maybe not quite such a big advantage as it used to be when we first reviewed these wheels, when this was really the only ecosystem that offered anything like it. So flipping the wheel around now, we already talked about the QR2 standard, which does do a very good job. And again, check out our detailed review on the QR2 ecosystem for all the details on that. We do also have a dedicated review video for these ClubSport magnetic paddle shifters as well. But just to give you the quick rundown on these, as I mentioned earlier, they are upgradable to the advanced paddle module if you want the analog paddles and the additional paddles at the top. But these do a really good job. They are nice and quiet as well. They've got little rubber inserts. And although they are micro switch operated, I've never had any reliability issues with them whatsoever. And overall, yeah, they're just really good solid shifters. They do include cast metal paddles on this particular wheel, unlike some of their other limited and special edition wheels which have had carbon fiber paddles. I actually don't mind that, although it doesn't look quite as nice. These don't have the same amount of flex in them as some other paddles that we've seen in the past. So you can see I can pull on the top of these paddles or the bottom, and there's no meaningful amount of flex there whatsoever. Very, very good experience with these shifters. Nothing to complain about whatsoever. And I do really like the fact that they're nice and quiet. That's something that definitely will make a difference if you're driving near somebody that's trying to sleep or study. So look, in terms of the hardware of the wheel itself, that is pretty much everything I think we need to really cover in this video, because as I said, it's nothing that we haven't really covered before. We've got plenty of detailed videos that really give you a breakdown, take you through the software and everything. Just to quickly touch on the wheelbase itself again too. So it's a 15 Newton meter holding torque wheelbase. Look, in our experience so far using it, and I have been testing it out extensively, over the last couple of months since we did that first look video, they have had a couple of new versions of drivers come out. So that has made a few small bug fixes and whatnot, but it hasn't really altered the driving experience overall. And as I touched on earlier in the video, because we still don't have full force integrated in any games, look, I just really don't feel comfortable unpacking this any further at this point in time, which I know it makes the video a little bit awkward, but I really want to see full force integrated into a couple of games before I unpack this base in any more detail than we did in our first look video. I think that that's going to be such an important determining factor that, at this point in time at least, I don't feel confident either recommending for or against this compared to other competitor products. I think the important thing that you guys need to know at this point in time is that there really isn't a bad option when it comes to direct drive at this point in time. There are so many good things on the market. We see fantastic products from Acertech, from Simucube. SimMagic have really impressed us recently. Mozza have maybe fallen behind the pack a little bit recently, in my opinion, just with regards to software. I think that they've been sort of rushing things a little bit in terms of just releasing a lot of software updates that have, in some cases, broken features, and then, they release another update a couple of weeks later that fixes it again. Although, in fairness, we have seen quite a bit of that from Fanatec recently as well. There have been quite a few beta versions of driver packages and firmware packages that you've needed to download to enable these new products to work. And then, there's been a lot of bug fixes that have had to happen off the back of that as well. So they're certainly not immune to it either. Now, the other question that I know is going to come up in the comments is it worth upgrading to this from the old F1 bundle that came with the PlayStation compatible version of the DD1 and a similar wheel to this? So, look, again, it's very difficult to give you a clear direction on that at this point in time, simply because, once again, full force isn't fully integrated with any games yet, so we can't test it. Now, what I would say, and again, if you've seen our CSDD and DD Plus first look video, you would know this, but the experience overall, even without full force, is, in my opinion, better. With this base, there's more fidelity in the detail. It's sharper. It doesn't have the same cogging effect or torque ripple that you feel. So the wheel just feels smoother and more detailed overall. So it does feel like a next generation product compared to the DD1 and DD2. It was around 20 Newton meters peak and around 15 Newton meters holding. So very similar in terms of strength to what we have here. So look, my answer to that question at this point in time would be, if you already own that bundle, there probably isn't a compelling reason to immediately rush out and upgrade to this. It's going to depend on what you can sell that old bundle for, of course, as well. If you feel like you can get a good price and there's maybe like only $100 or something changeover, then maybe. That may well change once full force is integrated though. I think the potential is there for this to provide a much nicer overall driving experience than what that old bundle did, but it's not a absolutely game-changing difference between the two of them, and especially not now without full force. So we'll have to kind of wait and see exactly how full force plays out. But for now, I'd say if you already own that other bundle, I wouldn't be rushing out and buying this. So look, the best I can do at this point in time, I think, is to say that I think the potential is there for the ClubSport DD and the DD Plus to be some of the best feeling direct drive wheelbases available on the market if full force does give us the things that we're hoping for. We do have True Force within the Logitech G Pro ecosystem, which is also PlayStation compatible, so that is definitely an option worth considering. I want to see more from Logitech in terms of expanding their ecosystem. At the moment, they don't have an ecosystem of steering wheels or even other accessories like shifters and handbrakes within their Pro line, at least, that are compatible with that G Pro base and pedals. And that is a big disappointment within that ecosystem, because their force feedback is actually fantastic, but Fanatec definitely have the upper hand in that space comparing the two, just in terms of the wider ecosystem and the products that are available there at the moment. And really, other than that, there just isn't another product available at the moment that we can really compare to that gives you that PlayStation compatibility. So look, I mean, if you're only racing on PC, there's plenty of other options to explore, and we've got reviews of pretty much all of those available right here on the channel. We've got the new Turtle Beach products, which we're going to be checking out very soon as well, and that may even end up releasing before this video does, depending on when the embargo lifts for this particular bundle. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's definitely one to stay tuned for as well. So look, the long and the short of it is that there really isn't a bad choice when it comes to direct drive at the moment. It's really just going to come down to what you think is going to suit you best, which is the reason why so much of this video has been talking about the customer service side of things and you know, shipping delays and whatnot, simply because, you know, it is an important thing that you guys need to consider at the moment, particularly with the abundance of choice that at least PC sim racers have at this point in time. So I think that's pretty much all I can give you for this video. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a good value package. You are saving yourself some money over buying the base and the wheel separately. I wish that they'd announced all of these things at the same time so that you guys as customers had the option of choosing which one was going to give you the best value. And I really want to see them do something new with these steering wheels. It's not a bad steering wheel fundamentally, but I mean, it's been 5 years now since they originally released this design. And we want to see some wheels that change things up. We want to see some integrated screens that are larger, display more telemetry. And yeah, they've been very, very quiet on that front for quite some time now. So at the end of the day, I think objectively it's a good bundle. It's great that you're saving a little bit of money. It's fantastic that they're including the QR2 standard with the wheel. You're not having to spend extra to upgrade that. I'm very happy to see that it's not the light version as well. I know that was something that a lot of people were upset about with the Extreme bundle. And beyond that, it's purely just going to be down to the type of wheel that you want. If you're wanting a more all-rounder style wheel, then the GD Extreme bundle is probably the better option for you. If you're mostly playing those F1 style games, then this is definitely going to be the better choice. Overall, I would say that this is a higher quality wheel than the GT Extreme wheel. It's more rigid overall. The buttons have a better feeling, and just overall, it feels like a more high-class product, not to mention, of course, the fact that it comes with the QR2 standard as opposed to the light that you get with that Extreme bundle. So yeah, for what it is, objectively, I don't have any complaints. Obviously, it's saving a little bit of money over buying the wheel separately, which is, of course, a good thing. But it's not really bringing anything new to the table either. I would really love to have seen something different with the steering wheel, particularly being a licensed F1 product. I think it was a really fantastic opportunity, along with a brand new wheelbase, a brand new quick release ecosystem that's all released in the last 6 months. It would have been a perfect opportunity to see something new and exciting in terms of the steering wheel. Ultimately, what we've ended up with here is the same wheel again, just a slightly different color scheme. And it's as simple as that. So Fanatec, I think it's about time that we saw something new in terms of a formula wheel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. For what it is, it's a good bundle, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I was disappointed that we didn't see something new in terms of the wheel, and it's as simple as that, guys. So I hope that today's video has helped you out. If it has, please do leave a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well so you don't miss out on future reviews. And yeah, we've got a lot of exciting stuff that we're gonna be looking at very soon. A couple of exciting new brands coming up, like Turtle Beach, for example, as well as some new and exciting stuff from existing brands. So a lot to keep an eye on at the moment. A good time to be subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on that stuff. But above all, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you do want to pick up any of the gear that you see in our videos, we do have those links available down in the description. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you again soon. Bye.